Hi there. Welcome to my series that I'm calling Ditch That Wagon and Go Digital with digital interactive notebooks. I've been using digital interactive notebooks for 3 or 4 years now, and it has been a huge game changer for me as a teacher. It's been super impactful in my classroom. And so I thought I would make a series of videos about some of the different things that I've tried out in my notebooks that have been successful for my students. So let's get into it. The ins and outs of digital interactive notebooks. Today, I'm going to be talking about quizzes and checking for understanding. But there are several things that I will be talking about in a series of videos that include check-ins, which I already did, interacting with text, interacting with vocabulary, anchor charts, maps, and throughout all of these series of videos, I'll be talking about differentiation. I may make a video that's just about differentiation. We'll see how that goes, but it's kind of part of every element of the notebook. Differentiation is. So let's get into it. My overarching kind of question that I want to be sharing about in these videos is what can you do now that you couldn't do before? So before with a stack of composition books versus now with a digital interactive notebook. That's what I'm going to be focusing on. This is a picture of the Scantron machine that lives in the teacher workroom at my school, which I had to learn how to use when I started teaching. And back in the day, I'm going to date myself here, but back in the day, that was how I assessed students' learning with a Scantron sheet. Yeah, tons of fun, super exciting. Now, with digital interactive notebooks and a lot of other elements that can happen in the classroom, you can provide students with the flexibility in the ways that they access and engage with the text, and what I'm going to be focusing on today in how they demonstrate their learning. So, I'm going to talk about fast and curious, self-checking tasks, quizzes, and student-created quizzes. Now, I talked about this during the check-in, but I felt like it was worth kind of bringing it up again. Why do I have this in my notebook sometimes? Because sometimes I use my notebook in Nearpod. Pear Deck works too. There are already slides that are created for the students, and I just use that Nearpod extension to turn my notebook into a whole class lesson. So sometimes if I'm doing that, if I know I'm going to do that, I will throw a slide like this in there to have a little mini check for understanding in my lesson. If I'm not going to use Nearpod or something, I won't do this. Here's another example of one. And this one I would do maybe with a Jamboard or a Collaborate board in Nearpod. But yeah, that's super informal. Quizzes. So this example is from my history notebooks because I teach English and history. So I initially started making my digital interactive notebooks strictly for history and not doing them for English. But the kids liked them so much, they were asking me, hey, can we do this in English too? So I started creating them for English as well. So this is a page that would be in the beginning of their notebook of what assignments they needed to do for the week. And I would have them do this as a warm-up every day. So do the quizzes. And the quiz questions were the same exact questions that were going to be on their formal assessment that they would take at the end of that chapter. So throughout the week, they're practicing and practicing and practicing every day. They can see their score increasing. These little score things here, it's just a word art, and they double click on it to add what was their score for that day. Day 2, what was their score? Day 3, what was their score? Super, super helpful thing to improve the grades that students are getting on their quizzes. This is kind of very similar to an edu protocol that's called Fast and Curious. sort of. I mean, but we don't do it all in one day. They do it every day. Then I have student created quizzes. So this was something I was doing before digital interactive notebooks. I would have students take the summary in the textbook, turn those summaries into questions, and then we did this on paper. They'd submit the papers to me. I would ask the questions, and we'd have like a little quizzy game type thing, not digital at all. And once I started doing these digital notebooks, I thought, we could probably still do those kid created questions. The act of turning those summary statements into a question really kind of helps force students to read those important summary statements, because usually the test questions come from those summary statements, and kids, when they're reading the text, like, that's not in a paragraph, so they skip over it. So this activity kind of forces them to engage with those summary statements. And I do teach them, like, specifically, they need to be taught how to create a question out of a statement. But once they have learned that, then I have a Google form where they submit this example, I did one that was called 2 truths and 1 false. So they had to submit 2 true statements and then 1 false statement. And it was formatted, and I taught them like how to do this. But then when you want to create a quizizz, and I used Quizizz, the website Quizizz, you can upload your Google form, turns into a spreadsheet, and you can then upload that to instantly make a quiz. So it makes your job super, super easy. And the kids are very, very engaged in this activity because they made the questions. I do start, when I am teaching this activity, I start with something that is not related to their academic work, because it is a little bit challenging for them to learn how to write out the questions. So in this example, you can see I did 2 truths and a lie, which translates into doing 2 truths and a false very easily, right? So they had fun doing 2 truths and a lie, and then we just translated that into academic work, 2 truths and a false. This is a student's example from their quizzes that they made. And there's another example. Now, this is just a picture of before I had the ability to use quizzes or have computers in my classroom. This is an example of how I would do this. I should do a post someday talking about grudge ball because it was super fun. And I wanted to put this in here to emphasize that, yes, integrating digital options into your classroom is amazing and it can be super transformational. But I'm not saying like throw away all non-digital things. This was a great activity to do with the kids and they loved it, and no computers were involved in this. The other thing I want to talk about is self-checking. So in your notebooks, again, this is a history example here. You can create self-checking questions by adding a text box and putting an answer in the text box. So my text box, you can see they're blue. And then the text inside the text box is the same color blue. So it doesn't show until students have changed the color of that box. It's actually a shape, not a text box, sorry. But they click and drag the answer to the box, change the color in the box to see if their answer was correct. This is an example from history. Let's take a look at what it looks like in English. Same thing. This is from my refugee notebooks. And if you're familiar with that story, it's a novel. It has 3 different characters who are on 3 different plot lines that kind of meet up at the end. And So each chapter is about a different character. So I created this little informal assessment for them to drag a character's name. Who said that? Whose storyline is that from? So they would drag the character's name to the box, change the color of the box to check their answer. That's it for today. I'm trying to keep these super short and focused on a single topic, but let me know if you like these videos, if they're helpful, if I should make more. If you like the video, then I know, hey, people want more of this and I'll make more videos. Thanks for watching.